piece of hair was found at the crime scene where the Duke University mascot, the Blue Devil, was murdered after Duke won a basketball game against NC State. We are going to use DNA fingerprint analysis to identify which of these mascots the evidence may belong to. At a gene locus, there can be back-to-back repeats of short nucleotide sequences, and different people vary in the number of repeats present. These variations in the number of tandem repeats result in alleles. As a result, we can visualize the alleles present in a DNA sample by separating DNA samples by size. First, PCR occurs, then DNA fragments undergo gel electrophoresis, where the DNA fragments are separated based on size and charge. Shorter DNA fragments, which have fewer tandem repeats, move through the gel towards the positive charge quicker. Band patterns can be used to compare alleles across samples. A southern blot is created to better visualize the band patterns. Breaking news! Duke University Blue Devil found dead after recent Duke University basketball win against NC State. Tuffy is currently being held in custody as the prime suspect. Note that a VNRT analysis is specific to one gene locus and that individuals have to have two alleles for each gene. Therefore, both alleles must match the two alleles present in the evidence sample to signify a possible match. First, we can see that the victim, the Blue Devil, shares one allele in common with the DNA evidence at this locus. However, the other allele is not the same, so the hair cannot belong to the Blue Devil. Next, our prime suspect, Tuffy, is not a match for the hair found at the crime scene because the alleles present are not the same. Tuffy can be excluded from this analysis for this piece of DNA evidence. However, at this gene locus, Mr. Wolf shares the same two alleles as the evidence. Right now, Mr. Wolf cannot be excluded. The demon Deacon cannot be linked to the DNA evidence at the crime scene because he does not have the same alleles at this locus. However, the Blue Devil's biggest rival, UNC's Rameses, cannot be excluded yet because he shares the same alleles as the evidence at this locus. A DNA match at one gene locus is not enough to signify that Mr. Wolf or Rameses were at the crime scene just yet. We will now look at another locus. Note that the Blue Devil only has one allele present in this plot. This means that the Blue Devil is homozygous at this locus. Again, the Blue Devil does not have matching alleles to the evidence at this second unique locus. Even though Mr. Wolf's alleles match at the second locus, he is still excluded from the plot because his DNA did not match at the first locus. We can see that the hair at the crime scene does not belong to Mr. Wolf after all because his DNA alleles do not match at the second locus. Even though the demon Deacon was excluded during the first analysis, we can note that his alleles do not match at the second locus either. Lo and behold, the Tar Heels are in a sticky situation. Both of Rameses' alleles at the second locus are the same as the alleles found in the DNA evidence at the crime scene. Rameses cannot be excluded from the analysis. Here we can see that only Rameses matches the DNA evidence at both loci, making Rameses the only suspect that cannot be excluded from this piece of evidence. Breaking news! DNA of Chapel Hill mascot Rameses matches DNA of hair found at Blue Devil crime scene. It's important to recognize that VNRT analysis can also be used for identifying parent and child relations. This is because diploid children inherit one full set of alleles from each parent to have two alleles at each gene. This means that a child shares one allele at each locus with each parent. We can see here that the demon Deacon shares one of the same alleles at each locus as the Blue Devil, which was held consistent when many other VNRT analyses were conducted at different loci. This signifies a parent-child relationship between the two mascots. Wake Forest University is older than Duke University, so we should say that the demon Deacon is the father of the Blue Devil. Perhaps the demon got a little frisky with the Carolina Blue Girl to make his son the Blue Devil.